Good morning, and thank you for joining us for this news conference. Public safety is my administration's top priority and the cornerstone of our vision of leading Lincoln towards a more successful, secure, and shared future. The men and women of our Lincoln Police Department work tirelessly and successfully to ensure that our city is safe and secure. And this is demonstrated both by our residents' positive interactions with law enforcement and by our numbers. Violent crime year to date is down 12% over last year and down nearly 17% over the past 5-year average. In fact, this year we are on pace to have the lowest rate of violent crime in our city in over 30 years. And that's despite the city having grown by 100,000 people.
I have to answer this phone call. Hi.
Hi, Jackie, you're on, could you mute your, thank you.
Oh, yes.
All right. As our law enforcement professionals do their job to keep us all safe and secure, my administration is committed to ensuring that they enjoy a workplace that is free from discrimination and harassment. And to demonstrate and advance the value that the city places on creating a safe workplace, serving our community with excellence, and providing transparency in all we do, I commissioned an independent and thorough assessment of LPD's workplace experience by the well-respected national firm 21st Century Policing Solutions. Now, this assessment, it drew on the experiences of 330 LPD officers and civilian personnel, equivalent to 70% of all department staff. And we really appreciate their responsiveness and perspectives on workplace experiences. Their perspectives contributed to the 28 recommendations contained in 21CP's assessment. In the time since its release, our team at LPD, led by Chief Teresa Ewens, has been working diligently to study, prioritize, and implement its recommendations. And the department has already made important modifications to its policies and procedures, and the overarching objective of both recent and forthcoming changes is to enhance workplace processes and safety for our current officers and staff, as well as for future cadets who advance through our police academy. At this time, I'd like to invite up Chief Ewens to share details on her team's plans to move forward on the recommendations outlined in the assessment. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to again thank 21st Century Policing Solutions for their hard work on this report. Like the Mayor, I too want to thank our team members who participate in this process. Your input is vital in building the department now and into the future. And I am proud of each and every one of you at LPD members who provide the highest level of service to our community every day. This process is an important step in our work to ensure our department is one where everyone is understood, respected, and above all, free from discrimination and harassment. As a woman serving in law enforcement and in a leadership role, this is something I take very seriously. As the Mayor mentioned, the assessment contained 28 specific recommendations. To address these recommendations, we have created a working document that catalogs each recommendation. This document will be available under the Transparency tab on our homepage at lincoln.ne.gov/LPD, where it will be regularly updated to provide you with our progress. What you will see in this document is a completion date, details of completion, and departmental unit responsible for its completion. Much work has already been done since the release of the report to support workplace safety, officer wellness, transparency, and excellent service to the community. We have made significant progress in completing the recommendations related to officer recruitment, hiring, selection, and retention. The recommendation that a city human resource employee be tasked with developing recruitment and retention plans for dispatch and professional staff positions has been completed. 2 city HR personnel work with the Education and Personnel Unit to facilitate all selection processes for hiring civilian personnel. To address the recommendation to set up a communication plan with applicants as they move through the process, we purchased software to have a broader ability to organize testing and communications with applicants on an ongoing basis for the entirety of the process itself. This allows us to collect data related to the frequency applicants are contacted while keeping open lines of communication. After speaking to our members and now having the assessment, change needed to occur regarding specialized positions and promotion processes. We have completed the implementation of a new sergeant promotional process, specialized position selections, and the upcoming lieutenant's test. After we heard from our members and now having the assessment, it was clear that changes to the process for selecting specialized positions and the promotional process is a high priority for many in our organization. The actions we have taken include hiring an outside firm to facilitate promotional processes for all ranks. Additionally, we designated the Education Personnel Unit, which includes 2 HR members in all selection processes for specialized positions. In the assessment, 16 women who completed the survey reported experiencing discrimination and/or harassment. We're committed to creating a culture of excellence, free from discrimination and harassment, for all members of LPD. We take these cases extremely seriously. The survey used was intentionally anonymous to encourage candid responses. The responses did not include details on the time frame in which the discrimination or harassment took place, or whether the complaints were reported and investigated. 21st Century Policing Solutions presented 6 recommendations related to discrimination, harassment, retaliation, workplace bullying, and hazing policies. As a department, we follow city policy regarding equal employment opportunity. Our policies are detailed in our General Order 1260, which can be found on our website as well. The city HR team has created a standard operating procedures document for conducting workplace investigation, which is in the final stages of review. The standard operating procedure document includes a detailed intake procedure, investigation protocols, and timeline for the complaint process. A partnering document, the workplace complaint questionnaire, will be used to help streamline the intake process for complaints of this nature. This will guide our city moving forward, including LPD, in handling claims of discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. They anticipate releasing these guidelines in the next month. I want to assure our members and the community that all these recommendations are in various stages of completion. We take this responsibility seriously and will communicate progress through updating our recommendations that you can find on our transparency page online. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief Ewens. Our team at LPD delivers valuable public service every day as they work hard to prevent and reduce crime, foster meaningful relationships with the community, and uphold the high standard of public safety that contributes to the good life here in Lincoln. And I want to express my gratitude to our chief, to LPD staff, and the rest of the leadership team in the department for their willingness to participate in the assessment and for their work to implement its recommendations. And as our city and police department grow together, these efforts help us secure the safety and success of the folks who suit up in uniform and who are so vital to securing our safety. And with that, we'd be happy to open up for questions from the media who are here.
What has been the reception of the improvements or changes that have been made among members of the Lincoln Police Department?
Thanks, Bailey. I would say it's been positive. I think the number one thing I heard from the very beginning is there needs to be change. So the changes I believe are positive, what I'm getting back. What we're doing in addition to having the systems in place for specialized units as well as for promotions is we're going to be surveying anyone that participated in those processes so we can see if we need to make additional changes. But we're going to be doing our survey, and HR is going to do theirs as well, because we want to have it separate, independent of our department, because it's important for people to feel if they want to have input with us, fine. HR, great. So I would say it's overall positive.
Mayor, I guess when you announced this assessment today, you kind of talked about the motivation being just making sure that LPD is a workplace free of harassment and discrimination. But of the 28 recommendations made, only 6 actually address that issue, and 5 of those are kind of minor policy changes or clarifications in policy language. Do you feel like this assessment adequately addresses that issue of harassment and discrimination that's been reported in the police department?
I think all of the recommendations are interconnected because they're about making sure that this is a well-run, well-structured, a department that has great accountability measures in place and that makes sure that people know where they can go if they have concerns. So, I mean, I guess we have elevated and looked at all aspects of the way that the department is managed, and I'm really confident and pleased with the work that the chief has done and the actions that are already underway. And we'll continue to try to, as she said, take in additional input about how we can focus on continuous improvement and make things better.
Various conversations, we've heard concerns from people who felt scared or that there might be retaliation if they brought complaints forward. What in specific changes in these guidelines to the EEO and discrimination policies will help address removing that fear of discrimination or retaliation from employees who want to bring their concerns or experiences forward?
So right away, prior to even the assessment, we created a portal, an anonymous portal, where you can file a complaint, in which would be investigated. And in addition, we added an EEO sergeant that would work with HR to evaluate these complaints. I think that, you know, the things that we've put in place are all positive. You know, ultimately, at the end of the day, we need people to come forward. They don't have to come to us. They can also go to the state. They can also file federally. There are things that people can do in order to have that outlet if they're afraid to file a complaint. You know, we support people to come forward, and I think that we put systems in place to help people do that.
I guess what's been done to support those 16 women specifically who said that they were being discriminated against since we last spoke in September about this?
So those are anonymous complaints. I'm sorry, the survey itself is anonymous, and so we don't have details. We don't know if it's already been investigated and reported. We don't have those details, as I said earlier. So I'm here to say that if they want to come forward, they need to choose to come forward, then please do. We'll investigate right away. We have those systems in place, or they can go and file it on the anonymous portal as well, or go to HR. There are outlets for people.
My question is, I guess, for the mayor, do I need to use this? You know, Chief Ewens kind of referenced there the implementation of an EEO sergeant to investigate, you know, equal opportunity complaints. I guess, as I understand that process, when someone files an EEO complaint within the police department, it's really up to that sergeant and assistant police chief and Chief Ewens to decide whether the sergeant investigates or whether that's transferred to an outside attorney. I guess, why is LPD still in charge of investigating their own EEO complaints when no other city department necessarily has that power?
I'm going to ask our city attorney to come up because, I mean, part of what we did is create a pathway through HR for EEO complaints, in part because, you know, our law department also has to work to serve all of our departments. So we are looking to create pathways that have no conflicts of interest. And do you want to speak to this question, please?
I think that law enforcement is uniquely situated to investigate, to conduct investigations generally, and I think it's important to remember that. They are the main investigating agency for the city. The system that we have in place, I'm confident in the system that we have in place, and there is always checks and balances that will ensure that there is no conflict with LPD when they are investigating the complaint. I think you heard earlier that they work together with the HR department, so it's not a decision that is made internally by itself. So it's important to understand that with the process as well. So.
And I would just add that, you know, the systems that we put in place that I spoke about earlier, as well as I directly work with the HR director and we go over complaints. Where should this land? Is it an EEO complaint? Does it rise to that level? Does it go to outside counsel? The policy that's going to be coming forward to direct us on how we do these is going to be important. And I think the city has gone in a great direction. It's been something that's been in the works for some time, and it was seen as a priority. And so we feel very confident that we're in a really good place right now.
We've heard people allege that the city is, when it comes to these issues, is more concerned about mitigating lawsuits versus actually taking care of the employees. Just what would you want to say to people who might have that belief?
Well, I would like to say just generally that we support an individual's right to seek redress through the courts. It's important to understand that when we deal with these issues, we owe an obligation to all of our employees, former and current, to keep their personal and personnel information private and confidential. And so what we have to avoid is talking publicly in the media about allegations, and we have to let the court process work itself out. So I think it's important to remember that when we're dealing with these issues as well. So.
I guess a lot of the recommendations surrounding, and I know you said that all the recommendations kind of go hand in hand, but a lot of the recommendations I think deal a lot with kind of after the fact. I mean, they're policies about reporting human rights violations or equal opportunity violations, and kind of making sure that the policies are in place to protect people reporting. But I guess what is being done to ensure that harassment just doesn't exist within LPD?
Chief address, but I want to say that there are both proactive and reactive changes being made. I mean, the assessment was not just a survey, although it was very important to give everyone a chance to weigh in about their experience so that we could be responsive to it. The assessment also looked at policies and procedures, and that's why you heard the chief talking about HR policies. It's why you heard her talking about recruitment strategies and retention strategies and the promotion process. You know, some of the input that we've received has been about concerns about how the promotional process worked. So we are looking at structures that can prevent perceptions or realities of unfairness going forward. And so, I mean, I would argue that this is a very comprehensive approach to both preventing and being responsive to potential claims of unfairness or discrimination. Did you want to add anything?
You know, it's, this is not necessarily unique to only law enforcement. This is in every business. And so we need to keep that in mind. We put things in place in order to support and guide our officers and our supervisors to do what they're supposed to be doing. The policies, the training are all important to try to deter that kind of behavior. At the end of the day, it's about people being held accountable. And those measures are in place. And making people feel that they can come forward and say what happened. You know, we are doing that work. And I feel very comfortable with what we have. I do understand what you're saying, Andrew, but I do think that it's about us preventing behavior before it even begins. And that's by policy, that's by training, that's by good supervision. And that is the ideal for me.
The survey talked about polarization between officers who might hold different views or have had different experiences or perceptions of experiences. Calling for a culture change or addressing that is a really big task, but how in what ways are you working toward improving culture and collaboration amid that polarization that was found in the survey?
I'd almost give you the exact same answer I just said. You know, you have to put in policies, you have to have the supervision, you know, you have to make it a safe environment for anyone to do their job. And so when we talk about polarizing and culture change takes time. You know, it takes time. And that's, you know, law enforcement has changed and it's evolving. And so with that, we will continue moving towards that. But we're going to continuously look at our department and assess it for ourselves to see if we are where we need to be as an organization, and listen to our members, both civilian as well as uniform, and see what they're feeling. Let them guide some of that conversation. And that's the important part of changing culture and polarizing.
Logistical question: how often, if someone wants to keep tabs on these things, how often could they anticipate checking back on this spreadsheet and seeing an update or seeing a task completed?
I hope is once a week, but that's my goal, but we may not be able to do that. So some of these recommendations take personnel, it takes financial means. We're fully back to make these changes, but it does take time because we do have partners we're working with outside of LPD as far as recruitment, as far as hiring. You know, these are things that we're going to constantly work on. And so as we move forward, what you're going to see is the only thing that you're going to see as completed are recommendations that I can show you, that I can articulate exactly where they are. And that's important to me because I'm not going to just put something on there that kind of is an umbrella and then I can't prove that to you because I know that our media wouldn't let me do that. But, you know, I think that the important part is understanding that each week we are paying attention to this. We're trying to complete them. We're in a really good place. Some things are almost completed. And so it's really about getting policy in there and what we need to complete every recommendation. Does that answer your question? Okay.
I know you pointed to like numerous things. I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to just point to only the supervision, but you have talked about kind of increased supervision and the creation of the lieutenant position is one of the things that could be, I guess, a means to thwart any wrongdoing within the police department. But I guess how is the public and even your own members and police officers supposed to believe that could be an effective tool when, you know, more than 30 supervisors in the police department have been named in equal opportunity complaints and lawsuits?
I would say that they themselves have asked me to make changes within the department. One of those things is supervision, and we were listening, and we're making that happen. That test will be given this month, and I hope to get them out there. The lieutenants are not just about making sure that there's no discrimination or harassment. They're also about making sure we're a well-functioning department overall. We have victims out there that need closure. It's about them supporting the sergeants and the officers in the field and making sure that we get the job done. So it is about supervision. There always should be checks and balances, but you know, I look forward to really having our time when we go to court, and we can talk about what we did, what we didn't do. You know, those are things that we need to really get to at some point, and the public can decide. The evidence will show what it will show, and they can determine at that point. But when it comes to 30 supervisors, I feel very confident that I have all the people that I trust to do their job and do it well.
Any ongoing anonymous surveying of employees? Maybe not a repeat of the 21st century, but will there be check-ins to check in on progress down the line?
I would say yes. We do plan on continuing that because surveys are really important, so we understand where the bar is for our department. So yes.
Any other questions from the media? All right, well, we will continue to be available to you. Thank you for taking the time today. This is a very important subject matter to all of us and to our community. And again, you can find more on our website at lincoln.ne.gov/LPD and the transparency section of the website. Thank you so much.